we had the same question. Could we consolidate these numbers and have it represent a qualifying number under the law for the declaration of an emergency and the extension of costs? And they indicated to us that as long as we put it in print in our warrant, that it didn't have to be a specific appropriation, but that they would acknowledge that as qualifying the town for this particular procedure that you refer to.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. The motion before us is $366,559 for line item number 34. On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Line item 35. Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, just a quick editorial note on the explanations that follow lines 33 and 34. For those of you who are making notes and making changes in your warrant, on the second line up from the bottom of that page, which is page 26, the line starts, "The Road and Street Division is staffed by 7.5 full-time employees." That was a misprint. It should be 8.5 full-time employees. And there are also 2 summer employees included in that budget.
Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum of $13,320 for line number 35 as printed in the Sponsor Recommends column with the noted transfers as printed in the warrant.
You've heard the motion. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mrs. Belmonte.
Finance Committee recommends.
Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Senior. Mr. Daly.
Let me go backwards on that. The $13,320 pays for 25 hours per week, which is a 5-hour increase from what we started with in this fiscal year for overseeing, coordinating, and actually running our recycling program for us. What we've done with this particular position in that additional 5 hours is that we've incorporated this person's expertise now and his time and energy into working with our entire solid waste management program, and that's proven very productive for us. So this particular position involves solid waste management. There is another use to which we've been putting this particular employee, again because of his particular expertise, demeanor with the public, and understanding of some of the jobs that we do in public works. This person has also been an account analyst and a customer service person with respect to our water meter conversion project. And he's been working about 10 additional hours a week on the average doing that particular job.
Mrs. Senior, to follow up.
Okay, this employee, I'm sorry? We have, the only thing that would be new that would apply to this employee as we have it planned at this stage is an appropriation under the Water Division. This appropriation that is shown here, the $13,320, exists and is being utilized in the same fashion that I just described in this fiscal year. This employee who works 20 hours a week and actually works 25 hours a week now, but started at 20 hours a week, was eligible for the full range of town benefits as a result of that initial 20 hours.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. The motion before us is $13,320 for line item number 35. Mr. O'Brien.
I apologize. I'm not going to use the mic. I'll talk real loud.
That's not the point. People on television cannot hear.
Mr. O'Brien, you have the floor.
For the people in TV land,
Did I just understand the town administrator say that this person receives full compensation benefits from the town for 25 hours?
Yes,
And he started at 20 hours and got all those benefits also?
yes,
I want a job.
apply.
The motion before us is $13,320. On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Line item 36, Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, one other follow-up comment in response to Mr. O'Brien's question there. The employees that we have who are working part-time who have a full range of benefits available to them don't have the same level of benefit as the full-time employees. They have prorated benefits. And when I say they have the same benefits available, those that are available in the same at the same level are things like health insurance and retirement and things of that sort that are based on fixed costs in the case of health insurance and a percentage of their pay that they receive in the case of retirement.
Line item 36, Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum of $520,640 for line number 36 as printed in the sponsor recommends column with any noted transfers as printed in the warrant.
You've heard the motion. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mrs. Belmonte.
Finance Committee recommends.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Pasquale.
John Pasquale. Mr. Daly, I don't question the numbers because I understand it's the stickers, but we ought to put before the people to understand where we are with recycling, because there ought to be another line here to say, is there any revenues? And I think we're running a loss leader. It's a fantastic setup we got in the town, so I'd like to know if we're getting revenues, number one. Secondly, I think it's time that the Board of Selectmen start to think that you got to form another committee. You don't like committees, but you have to hear what I have to say, because it's more than recycling, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get a solid waste advisement, because the costs are going to keep going up by 5 to 10%. They're running out where to put it. And you just can't depend on this part-time person down there to come up with solutions. We've got to get involved on a regional basis what we're going to do with the waste in the future in the town of North Reading, and recycling is not the answer. I can tell you that from a professional standpoint.
Mr. Daly.
So that there's not a misperception involved here, we don't rely totally on this part-time employee to run our whole solid waste management program. This person is the initial, or I should say the hands-on contact with that program, and is a support person and assistant to not only the Public Works Director but also to myself in managing this program. I'm involved in this program personally because of my expertise in solid waste management, but also because this particular budget represents roughly 7 to 8% of the general government's costs every year. Mr. Pasquale is right. This is a very significant area of the town's budget, and it's not something that can be treated lightly or not constantly monitored. As an example, we monitor the income and expense on this particular program every single week. And it gives us an opportunity, as I've phrased it to our public works staff, 52 opportunities during the course of the year to make adjustments as needed. The revenue that comes from the recycling program at this point in time is none. That's the simple answer. We have a contract with a hauling firm, BFI, that provides us with the containers that you all see at the recycling center, and they haul the containers away, but they get the recyclable material that they put into a materials recycling facility that they have, consolidate it with other collections that they're making, and then they have sufficient quantity and consistency of supply that they can actually market that in the recycling industry. The town of North Reading isn't in a position, because of our size and the nature of our recyclables, that we would be able to do that on our own. By the way, we pay, I think it's $3,900 a year $7,900 a year, $7,900 a year for that particular contract.
Mr. Sandorfi.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the town has addressed the question of solid waste disposal by having a long-term contract with Nasvik.
That's true.
Any further discussion? Mr. Pasquale, just briefly for follow-up.
Yeah. The neighboring town of Reading is about to drop their curbside pickup. See, they're talking. So I'm interested, and a lot of surrounding towns are going to go the same way with curbside. It's getting too costly. So when we have a wonderful facility sitting here, my concern is that we may have some cars coming in here. So what is the policy going to be for other towns around us using our facility?
Mr. Daly.
I'm glad you asked that question.
Thank you, sir.
We have been approached and have had some very preliminary discussions with the town of Reading, because the curbside program that Mr. Pasquale is referring to is their curbside recycling program, not their trash collection program. They had planned to stop doing it for the last 3 months of this fiscal year. They were doing it today, and we haven't heard anything further by way of contact from them, so I'm not sure that they're actually going to discontinue it for the rest of the fiscal year. They may discontinue it for next year. The initial contact that we've had with them is that North Reading's facility is certainly small. It's not capable of handling the residents of Reading in any large numbers, but that we would entertain and discuss with them the prospect of some limited number of Reading residents using our facility on a fee basis. The way we control that right now is that everyone who's been to the recycling center knows that you get a little green and white sticker that you put on your window identifying you as a North Reading resident. We would use some other color that would be more representative of the charge that we would put out there for Reading to pay if any of their residents were to use the facility.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. The motion before us is $520,640 for line item number 36, including a $116,000 transfer from user fees. On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Carried. Line item 37, Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum of $32,210 for line number 37 as printed in the sponsor recommends column with any noted transfers as printed in the warrant.
You've heard the motion. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation, Mrs. Holsing?
The Finance Committee recommends.
Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Chabot, please state your name and address, ma'am.
I would like to ask something about these monies when they come from these different funds. And a certain amount is transferred from the funds. What happens to the remaining money that's in the funds?
Mr. Daly.
These are special funds that have to do with the maintenance and care of cemeteries. They're generated from the sale of lots and donations and things of that sort that come in. They can only be used for these specific purposes. So to the extent that there is any balance remaining from year to year in these funds after an appropriation such as this is made, it can only be used for the same type of purpose in some ensuing year.
Is that in the financial report? Is that listed in the general fund or in special revenue funds? Or which kind of funds?
Perry.
If you turn to page 3 of your warrant, Finance Committee report on Table 2, there's a list of all the reserve and special funds. And if you look under the line perpetual care, there's $31,900 currently in the fund, and we're proposing to transfer $29,490 worth, leaving $2,410 in that fund for another year.
And where is that fund reported in the town report? In the general fund, in special revenue funds, or some other funds?
It is shown under the category of trust funds. And Mr. Dow just corrected my explanation slightly. He informed me or reminded me, and I'll tell you that the Only the